I'd like to welcome you to today's Indiana Regional Training presentation. Let's review the agenda. We'll review the training that's already been made available, and we'll review a few navigation tips that will help you with adjusting your views and filters more easily locating information. Next, we'll go over the administration preparation steps and learn about activities you'll need to complete in Pearson Access Next. We'll discuss the steps you need to add and edit student information and highlighting navigation tools used throughout the site. We'll talk about creating online sessions and moving students to new or existing sessions. I will also show you how you can use some specifically designed reporting tools to track and monitor your progress. We'll also discuss the process for ordering additional materials if you don't have enough paper materials for students that require a paper accommodation, or if you're testing paper and pencil for the iStep Plus Part 1 or iRead 3 administrations. We'll learn how to pre-cache content and manage online sessions during live testing. And we'll review a few testing scenarios related to moving students to and from your corporation. And then we'll do some closing remarks. I'd like to draw your attention to Avocet, Pearson's online indexing tool. There you can find helpful resources as you prepare for testing. In the materials that are on Avocet, you'll find a training materials reference sheet where you can find a list of all the training resources that have been made available to you since last fall. There is a series of training modules that will help you familiarize yourself with the Pearson Access Next. These modules include instructions on everything you need to successfully utilize Pearson Access Next before, during, and after training. There's also several how-to videos that demonstrate some of the more common activities in Pearson Access Next, which provides a visual step-by-step demonstration of the activities for creating a test nav configuration, creating an online session, and pre-caching test content. These modules are available in the online Pearson Access Next user guide. Before we continue, I want to remind everyone that you have the option to toggle between available administrations for 2016 spring testing. If your view is set to iStep Plus Spring 2016, you will only see students registered for iStep Plus Part 1 and Part 2, but you will not see students registered for iRead 3 unless you change your view selection at the topmost menu bar. For today's examples, we'll be using the training site. To access the training site from the main landing page, you can select the link in the lower right navigation panel. As a reminder, this site is a mirror image of the operational site with a few exceptions. The training site has a brown theme to remind you of which site you were working in, and it has the feature to generate sample students for practice. Your real student data will be loaded from the DOE TL file, and students will automatically be placed in sessions that you can update to meet your local needs. The next section will cover the steps that need to be completed prior to the live assessment window for iStep Plus and iRead 3. The first thing we'll cover is student data management. During this section, you will be provided with information about navigation tips and how to use filters and views in Pearson Access Next to limit and control your selections for viewing. The filters and views work the same throughout the site. Student data and student registrations will be preloaded, but if a student enrolls in a school in your corporation after the file load date, or if you are missing a student from the initial load, you will need to manually add and register the students before you can add them to an online test session. To review student data and to create new students, go to the Students page from the main Setup menu. To create and edit students, you can either use the menu drop-down for Select Task or select the menu drop-down available for the Start button. The first option lets you choose each specific registration activity individually, or you can select the checkbox next to registration to auto-select all of the registration activities. When using the menu associated with the Start button, you will only have two options, and the registration option will automatically select all registration activities. Both drop-down menus will launch the task pane to allow you to continue with the selected task. Remember, to choose registration task, you must also select the students from the main student list pane before continuing. You must also make your selection of students before you can edit existing student information, but you do not need to select students if you're creating a new student. To see a list of registered students, first select the Show All Results checkbox. This view lists all students that are registered for the iStep Plus Spring 2016 administrations. After you've made the selection of your students that you want to edit or register, notice that in the upper right menu, the selected display will show the number of students that you have selected. If you select the Manage drop-down, you can see a list of the students currently selected. You can also select the X to the left of the student's name to deselect the student from the list you are managing. To easily locate students, you can choose specific view and filter options from the Students page. By selecting the link by the Find Students label, you'll notice that you have the option to view students that have been registered for your selected administration, or you can select the radio button to change the view to look at both registered and unregistered students. When you select the checkbox for viewing all results, you'll see all students for the organization and not just registered students with this selection. You can also select the Toggle Secondary Filters link to view more filtering options if you want to reduce the list by criteria other than registration. Filters and views are available throughout the Pearson Access Next environment, and they work in the same manner as we've discussed for the students pages. So we will not repeat this information for the remaining sections in the training. From the Create Edit Students task page, enter the basic student details into the corresponding fields along with the sort option at the bottom. Required fields are noted with a red asterisk. Select the Create button to complete the action. Also, note that creating a student does not automatically register the student as noted at the bottom of the page. Once the student has been successfully created, the student will appear on the list to be available for editing. When you select the student's name on the left, you can make any necessary changes and click them to save. Also, when you select students from the main Students page and start the Create Edit Students task, you can use the same selection and edit method to change information for existing students. As a reminder, not all roles have the ability to add students. Review the user role matrix to determine which students can be added and which roles can add and edit student information. When you select the Register Students task to complete all registration steps for the new student, you will notice that each step is listed: Enroll Students, Register Students, Manage Student Test, and Manage Groups as a tab across the top of the student task. After completing each step and saving your changes, you can select the Next Task button to advance to the next tab in the registration process. You can also just select the next tab at the top of the pane. The Enroll Students tab is simply to verify that the student is enrolled in the appropriate school. Let's move on to the Register Students task. You must select the Registered checkbox to enable the fields for editing. Make your selections from each of the available field drop-downs. Note that the Special Populations and Accommodations section includes selections for not applicable, but making a selection is required. If the student does not qualify as a special population or requires an accommodation, you must indicate this by selecting Not Applicable or No, depending on the available field selections. Some fields also offer pop-up help text by selecting the eye icon. Note that the registration task applies to the selected administration. If you would also like to register the student for the iRead 3, you will need to change the administration from the top menu and repeat these steps after you complete the registration for iStep Plus. And finally, you will select the Save button to save your entries and update the page to be able to select the next task for managing the student's tests. Next, you will need to manage tests that students will be assigned to. To assign tests to the student, begin by typing the grade in the Test drop-down to filter the list of available tests. The drop-down will not display all tests, so you need to filter by grade. With the exception of new students, students will automatically be assigned the appropriate test, either operational or pilot test. Note the pilot tests are labeled as Book 2. If you have not received a notification about being selected for the pilot, you should not select Book 2. Any new student in your corporation will need to be added to the appropriate operational and possibly pilot tests. For each new student, you will need to assign the organization where the student will be testing, select the test mode as online, add the teacher name, teacher SPN number, teacher email, grade, and whether the student is eligible for a read aloud accommodation as required fields. Entering the group name, exam type code, and all other available accommodations are optional. Note the teacher name is used for reporting purposes and is a required field. The group name can be used to assign multiple students to a group and then assign the entire group to an online session rather than individually selecting each student, as a quicker approach to building online sessions. Exam type code is the code number provided on the DOE TL file to indicate the exam type. The accommodations block allows you to specify eligible accommodations for each test to be taken. Select the Save button after you've completed all your selections, and you will see the green success message if all required fields have been entered. Students are assigned a subject battery of tests for the enrolled grade and test selected. From the Manage Groups task, you can either choose an existing group by selecting the box under the Groups section and choosing from the list, or create a new group by selecting the New Class button. If you are creating a new class, you need to choose the organization from the Organization drop-down, provide a name for your new class, and provide a description. Finally, save your new class. Select the student from the drop-down under the group to assign the student to a class and select the Save button to save your update. You have now added your new student, registered the student, created test assignments, and added the student to a testing group. The new students are now available to be added to online test sessions for each test assignment. Now I'd like you to log on to the training site and take a few minutes to practice creating, enrolling, registering, and assigning tests to the students. Once you log into the training site, make sure you select the appropriate test administration. For our training today, we'll use the iStep Plus test administration. In the next section, we will talk about creating online sessions. First, be sure that your technology coordinator has set up the TestNav configuration in Pearson Access Next. This step is necessary before you begin creating sessions. You should already have a configuration defined if you participated in the statewide readiness test. Configurations defined in the training site will need to be manually added to the operational site. When your students are loaded into the operational site, they will automatically be assigned to online sessions. You may want to create your own online sessions by either creating new online sessions, which we will cover next, or using the Move Student feature and selecting the Create New Session option from the Move Student panel. Let's begin with the option to create a new session. To create online sessions, go to the Sessions page by selecting Sessions from the main testing menu. To create a new session or edit an existing session, select the Create Edit Sessions checkbox and select the Start button to begin the task. This image shows a combination of custom-built sessions and system-generated sessions. The bottom 3 sessions are examples of what your sessions may look like once the student data has been loaded and sessions are automatically created. The session naming convention includes the teacher name, sort option, subject indicator, and special accommodations if applicable, and each is separated with a hyphen. As an example, I'd like to draw your attention to the last session on the list. The session name includes the following. The teacher name is Sample Teacher. The sort option is 0. The subject indicator is E, and it includes a read aloud accommodation. As another example, students eligible for receiving a calculator accommodation will be placed in a session with a C indicator in the session name to indicate that they will have access to an online calculator within their test assignment. To begin, you need to provide a session name. Your session name should be descriptive enough so that you can recognize the session from the list of sessions you will be creating for your school. Next, assign the organization and then assign the test. You will need to create separate sessions for each grade and subject area. As a reminder, you should not select Test with Book 2 in the title unless you've been selected to participate in pilot testing. After selecting the test, enter the scheduled start date, time, and lab location. While date and time fields are required, they do not perform any date-driven functions within Pearson Access Next. These date and time fields are meant to provide you with additional sorting and filtering criteria to manage your view of online sessions. The date and time fields are strictly for reference and do not dictate actual start times. For example, if you have a weather day and need to test the following day, you simply start the test session on the new date and begin testing. You do not need to update the session details, as the session start time will be updated when you start the session. Next, select Main as the form group type. Audio accommodations will be provided through embedded audio in Read Aloud Test. Indiana Test will not have a Proctor Read Aloud option, so you do not need to select the checkbox or select a Read Aloud form group type. Also notice that the default caching machine is listed in the Pre-Caching Computer drop-down menu. Check with your corporation IT coordinator if you have questions about the selected configuration. Next, you'll need to assign the students to the session. You can select students by name or by group, or by looking within the selected school or organization. Selecting a student from a school other than the selected school can be useful for testing special population students that may be testing in a school other than their home school. After you make your selections, click the Create button to generate the new online session. Once you have created online sessions, you can view students in the sessions and perform additional tasks by selecting the Show Students in Sessions and Control Sessions link found within the task menu. Later in today's presentation, we will discuss what actions can be done to manage tests during the live testing. Now you can take a few minutes to practice creating an online session. Once you've created a session, add your new student. Now we're going to discuss managing students. Another way you can create sessions is by moving students from an existing session to a new session. Using the Session List field in the upper left navigation pane, locate the session for the student or students you would like to move to a new or existing session. Next, select the student and choose the Move Students Between Sessions option for the task menu. Within the Move Students Between Sessions task, you can choose an existing session or select the Create Session button. This option will prompt you to enter information for creating the session. Next, provide a session name, select the organization, select the test that matches the student or students you are moving, provide a start date for planning purposes, and choose the form group type and pre-caching computer. Schedule start time, lab location, and extend test time are for planning purposes only. Then select the Create button. From the Move Students Between Sessions task pane, select the New Session task checkbox and select the Move button to complete the task. Now you can practice creating a new session by moving student from an existing session into a new session using the Create Session option in the Move feature. First, locate the session that has students. Select at least one student from the session. Choose the Create Session button and populate the new session information. Then move the student into the new session. Now let's discuss some helpful reporting tools designed to assist you with tracking and monitoring activity within your school or corporation. There are a variety of reports available to help you review the data that has been loaded into Pearson Access Next. As you can see, there are a variety of reports in 5 different reporting categories. You can generate reports for organizations, students and registrations, online testing, orders and shipping tracking, and users. I will provide you with an example for just one of these. Let's review the reports for online testing. If you select the link for Session List, you will see the Session List report page. Notice that you can display the report or download. Some reports have additional filter options. Some reports can be filtered by school or test. This is useful when you want to confirm whether all students have been assigned to sessions by test or by school. Now, let's generate a report for the session you created. Locate the online session reports from the Operational Reports Action menu. Choose the session roster report and generate a report. Don't forget to use the refresh button to refresh the page to check the status. Next, we will discuss paper test materials. For 2016 spring paper testing, each grade and subject will have its own booklet. This means that for grade 3 iStep Plus, each student taking the paper and pencil version of the assessment will receive a separate test booklet for ELA and another for math, for operational tests. The practice tests are combined into one test booklet. Paper materials will be sent to corporations during the week of February 8th. You can order additional materials if you do not have sufficient materials for all students that will take a paper and pencil version of the assessment. Now let's review the steps to order materials. Select Additional Material Order Tracking from the Setup drop-down menu. Please note, orders can only be created by CTCs within the corporation view. To place an additional order, first select the reason for creating an additional order, then complete the additional order information. Select a stored contact to pre-populate the form, or you can enter the information manually. Next, select the Add Items button. A pop-up will appear with a list of items that can be ordered. You can filter the view by subject, type, or grade. Update the amount column and select the Save button. Finally, select the Create button to submit the order. Now let's review pre-caching test content. You may have already practiced pre-caching test content in preparation for your local infrastructure trial or during the statewide readiness test, but let's review the steps. You'll be able to pre-cache test for the live assessments approximately 2 weeks before the testing window. You will receive a communication to let you know when tests are available for pre-caching. To pre-cache test content, start by selecting Sessions from the Testing menu. Make sure that you have launched Pearson Access Next from a supported browser. Chrome is not a supported browser. Under Search, select the Show All Results checkbox. Next, select the test session for the grade and subject that you want to pre-cache. Select the pre-caching test content task, then select the Start button. Once you have launched the pre-cache content task, you will see the details about the number of forms, number of elements, and size of file to be downloaded. Select the pre-cache button to start the content download. You can also select the eye icon, and a pop-up window will display the session details. Within the session details, you can confirm the session information, the test form information, which pre-caching computer has been assigned to the session you're pre-caching, the response file save locations for the students in the session, and a list of the students assigned to the session. After the pre-caching test content task is complete, you can open the Proctor Cache Monitor page, and you will see new line items listing the tests that you have just downloaded. Each grade and subject level test and each form represented in the session will be listed on its own line, along with the status and the test date and timestamp of when the test download was completed. There is also a shared content line for content shared by all test forms. The next section will cover the steps needed during live testing. Let's continue with online session management. In this section, we will discuss the steps to manage and monitor your online sessions during live testing. We will review the steps necessary to print student testing tickets, as well as information regarding seal codes and how to start test sessions. Then we will talk about the various statuses of student tests. Before students can begin testing, the session must be in started status. This is a safety measure to prevent students from launching tests before the examiner is ready to begin. First, locate the session from your list of online sessions within your school. Remember, you can use the filters on the left side of the page to reduce the list and make it easier to locate the session you want to start. Then select the link to show students in sessions and control sessions. Below the task panel, you will see the session level actions that can be performed using the buttons for starting the session, downloading resources, updating cache, and refreshing the page. Before students can begin testing, they will need to have a student testing ticket, which can be accessed from the Download Resources drop-down. Next, the status legend will help you to understand the possible student test statuses. You can add multiple sessions to the session list if you'd like to perform the same action on multiple sessions at one time. This is called a combined view. This is useful if you'd like to start all of your morning sessions or print all of your student testing tickets at the same time. The current test status appears on the row for each student in the session. Let's return to the single session view and talk about the resources that can be downloaded. Student testing tickets can be displayed for printing in 4 different styles. Some views can contain more details. You can choose a less detailed view to conserve paper. In most formats, you will need to cut the printout to provide each student with their unique test login credentials. Here are examples of the test ticket formats. This is grid view, list view, Detail view 4 per page, detail view 1 per page. If you're using the installed or application version of TestNav, you will not need to use the URL information on the testing ticket, as you will launch TestNav using the application. Some tests will have multiple sections that are controlled using an electronic seal code. The administrator monitoring the test session will need to print the list of seal codes to provide students when it is time to begin testing or when it is time to advance to the next section in the test. This is another safety feature that allows the person monitoring the test session to manage student access to tests. The person monitoring the test session provides the seal code after the examiner scripts have been read to the students and they are ready to begin testing. The person monitoring the test session can also print a list of scheduled sessions. Now let's locate student testing tickets, seal codes, and session status reports. For today's practice, we're not going to print any of these resources. Next, we will start the session. Select the Start button and notice that the label for the button changes to Stop. Note the information icon and edit icon next to the session name. By selecting the edit icon, you can edit the session details. This feature can be used to change the caching computer if you need to quickly choose a different caching station, for example, if the current machine is not available. Once students begin testing, their test status will change to reflect their current testing status. The summary bar at the top of the page will provide summary counts for each test status. You can select the refresh button at any time to update the page display. Note that a student must be resumed before they can re-enter their test after exiting. For example, a student who needs to leave the room for an unscheduled restroom break. This is another security feature designed to prevent students from accessing tests without authorization by a test examiner. Students will use the same testing ticket to resume an exited test and will return to the item that they were last viewing before they exited the test. Once a student has successfully launched a test, their test status can be updated from within the session details page. By selecting the drop-down next to the status indicator, the following options are available: Resume and Resume Upload. It may not be necessary to resume a student that has returned from a break. They can re-enter their test using the same login credentials as when they first launched their test. Students that are in a resumed or active status can be changed to resume upload status. This may be necessary if your technology staff needed to recover a response file from a tablet or Chromebook device, or if a connection was lost before TestNav was able to transmit an exited status to the Pearson servers. If you select the status itself, a pop-up will appear that provides information about student progress. You will not be able to see the student's responses, but you can see which questions the student has visited, answered, and how many are remaining. Items such as instructions and reading passages are indicated with a message of no response required. Timestamps are also available so you can see if a student is actively testing. Summary information is available at the top of the window. You can also access students in sessions from the main testing menu. There are a number of different tasks that can be performed from the Students in Sessions page, including adding students, removing students, and moving students to a session. Students can be updated through the Manage Student Test link if you need to change accommodations or change the teacher assignment information. You can also mark a student's test as complete on the student's behalf. This feature is used when a student will not be completing the test or was assigned to the test in error. These tests are marked complete and display a special marked complete status to make these tests easily identifiable. To mark a student test complete, select the task for Mark Student Test Complete and select the student or students from the list. Then select Start. Select the student to indicate the reason for marking the student's test as complete. Then select the Mark Complete button to proceed and exit the task. Notice that the status will change to a blue Marked Complete status. All tests must be in a Marked Complete or Stopped status in order to stop a session. You can also update the section where the student will begin testing the next time the student re-enters the test. This is a useful feature for students that may have been absent for a section of the test and need to return to the unfinished section during a makeup opportunity. Select the student from the Students in Session page and choose Set Section Start Resume from the Select Task drop-down menu, then start the task. You can select the same section for multiple students. To do this, select the section number from the drop-down in the upper left corner of the task pane. Then select the checkbox for Use the same section for all students in this session. Alternatively, you can choose the section by student if you deselect the checkbox for all students. Select the Save button when you have finished updating sections. Now you can take a moment to practice marking a student's test as complete. Locate a student in the session whose status is not complete or marked complete. Select the student, then select the Mark Students Test Complete task from the Select Task drop-down menu. Next, provide a reason in the text box and complete the task. Let's discuss online tools that will be available to students from within the online test. This table lists all of the tools that will be available to students taking online assessments. This list can be found in each grade level examiner manual. All students will have access to these tools. Students in grades 3 through 5 will require an accommodation to have access to the calculator for the iStep Plus math assessments. All students in grades 6 and higher will have access to built-in calculators within their math assessments. At any time during the test, students may access the Review tool from the toolbar at the top of the test to see their progress. The Review tool will provide information about the number of questions, the number of unanswered questions, and the number of bookmarks. Notice the bookmark indicator on question 5. This means that the student selected the bookmark tool at the top of the test while working on question 5. This is a helpful tool for students to note which items to review before submitting their final answers. The highlighter tool is not available on the toolbar at the top of the TestNav interface. Rather, it can be seen once a student has selected text. Notice that the available color options for highlighting text are pink and blue. Students may also select the red / box to remove previous highlights. Students may also eliminate answer choices on some item types. If an item type includes multiple choice single select or multiple select options, students may use the answer eliminator, indicated by the icon with an X, to strike through the answer choice that they do not wish to consider. Reselecting the answer that has been eliminated will deselect the elimination red X. The color contrast tool allows students to change the background and text colors for the test, and this remains active until their color contrast option is turned off using the tool drop-down. The color contrast tool can be selected by using the tool drop-down in the upper right corner of the TestNav interface. And when selected, there is a number of alternate color options available. The default option, a black text with a white background, is indicated in the list. Once a color selection is made, the screen will update, and then the student may either choose another option or select the Continue button to change the settings. The Line Reader Mask tool is an adjustable overlay that can be used to mask information on the item or can be used as a straight edge. Students can access the Line Reader Mask tool using the same menu drop-down as the color contrast. Once the tool is selected, students can adjust the size of the mask tool and the size of the mask opening using the adjustment hash marks located in the bottom right corner of the tool, as indicated with the red arrows. Students can control the size of the window to zoom in or out by using the Control key and the plus or minus key. On iPads, students can pinch the screen for the same effect. There is no special tool to access this feature, as this is standard keyboard and touchpad feature. Math online assessments include rulers. There are 3 different ruler types: an 1/8" measurement, 1/4" measurement, and a centimeter measurement ruler. There is also an optional protractor for grade 5 math assessments. All of these measurement tools work very similarly. Students can select on a tool to move the tool within the item, or they can select on the rotating dots on either side to rotate the angle of the tool. Students in grades 6, 7, and 8 will have access to a scientific calculator for their mathematics assessments, and students in grade 10 will have access to a Texas Instruments 84+ graphing calculator. The calculator can be accessed by selecting the calculator icon within the toolbar at the top of the test. Then the calculator will launch. Exhibits for math reference sheets are available in the math assessments and are located on the rightmost side of the testing interface. A student can select the exhibit icon, and a window with the applicable math reference sheet will pop up for the student to view formulas for the appropriate grade level math assessment. We will conclude today's presentation with a final section containing reminders of where you can find additional information about the features presented today and contact information for the Indiana Customer Service Center should you have additional questions. Pearson Access Next offers a secure method of submitting a support request through the portal. You can select Support Request from the Support menu found on the main landing page. This feature provides you with the ability to send a secure email request through the portal, and the request will automatically generate a support ticket for you to track. This delivery method is more secure than a standard email, so it is recommended that you use this support request tool if you need to include any personally identifying information about your school, staff, or students. It's also a handy way of tracking all requests that you've submitted or have been submitted within your corporation or school. Begin by selecting the Create Edit Requests task from the Select Task drop-down menu. Next, provide the organization and a short 20-character or less description of your request. Then make your selection from the list of support categories. If you do not know which category is most applicable, you can choose Other, then provide more details about the request. Once you submit your request, a ticket will be opened in the call center and a confirmation email will be sent to you with a ticket number for tracking purposes. This page provides you with the ability to describe your request and attach any supporting documentation. As a reminder, if you're having technical issues while students are attempting to test, be sure to call the support desk rather than use the support feature so that your request can be prioritized before requests that do not need immediately affect student testing. As a reminder, you can access manuals, guides, and program resources at Avocet. This concludes our training. If you have any questions, you can contact Pearson's Indiana Customer Service at 866-683-6668, Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Time, or by email at indiana_helpdesk@support.pearson.com. Thank you for attending this important training.